You know, the spiritual awakening of the Beatles was just not the Beatles, their wives, their affiliates were very deep into transcendental meditation, George Harrison specifically. But when he went on that famous train trip to Marrakesh for a weekend retreat, they wrote or were inspired, the Beatles wrote or were inspired by different things to write songs. Now, this got to be the longest Beatles title in history. I don't think there's anyone as long as this. And it's one of my personal favorites. Everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey. Yes, double meaning. So on Behind the Tracks today, in our latest Beatles breakdown, we're going to talk about this song that came from the double album, The Beatles, also known to many in the States, Canada, UK as the White Album. Written by Lennon and credited to Lennon McCartney, the lyrics contain sayings the Beatles heard from Maharishi and Maestro Yogi, with whom they studied TM in India in early '68. In subsequent comments on the song, Lennon said it addressed his bandmates' initial reaction to his relationship with Yoko Ono. Recorded early in the sessions for the White Album, the track typifies Lennon and the Beatles' return to a rock sound in '68 after the psychedelic period. And this, not say it's heavy metal, but it's pretty fucking close. Now, the song was many chansons written by John Lennon in or shortly after the Beatles' return from Rishikesh in India, where they studied TM with the Maharishi. The lyrics contain some of Maharishi's favorite sayings relating to the meditation experience. Come on, it's such a joy. According to George Harrison, aside from reference to a monkey, the lyrics were almost entirely taken from Maharishi's pronouncements. Harrison gave "Everybody's Got Something to Hide" and "Come on, it's such a joy" as examples of their teachers' pet sayings. In the case of the latter, the Maharishi's full teaching was, "Come on, it's such a joy, take it easy, take it as it comes, enjoy." And yes, maybe the Eagles got inspired. Now, Lennon's comments on the song in 1980 confused chronological events. Said it predates his relationship with Yoko Ono and started recording for the Beatles' self-titled double album, also known as the White Album. Although he felt he had a romantic connection with Yoko before he broke up with Cynthia or before he consummated with Yoko. He said the lyrics address his bandmates' disapproval of his affair with Ono, which began soon after he and his wife returned from India. According to Lennon's recollection, that was just a sort of a nice line I made into the song. It was about me and Yoko. Everybody seemed to be paranoid except for us two, who were in the glow of love. Everything is clear and open when you're in love. Everybody was sort of tense around us, what is she doing here at the session? Why is she with him? All this sort of madness is going on around us because we just happen to want to be together all the time. Now, I think there was artwork about something like Yoko being a monkey on John's back, and the claws were going into John's back. Paul McCartney believed that the song was about heroin, as the term monkey is often associated with the drug. McCartney said John started talking about fixes and monkeys. It was a harder terminology, which the rest of us weren't into. Lennon referred to the song in the final interview he gave before his murder in December 1980, saying, "As I put it in my last incarnation, everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey. It means really that one cannot be absolutely oneself in public." I tend to agree. If I told exactly what I thought of my family and friends, I couldn't exist, because the fact that you're in public makes you have to be some kind of defense or whatever it is. Now, Lennon's working title for the composition was "Come On, Come On." An Esther demo of the song, recorded at Harrison's Esher home in May '68, features a backing of acoustic guitars and percussion. It's performed in a more relaxed style compared to the album version. In author Ian MacDonald's view, the Beatles' recording of the song serves as a further stage in the post-psychedelic reemergence of Lennon as the lead rock and roller of the band, Signal and Hey Bulldog. The band began working on the basic track on June 26, though those takes were discarded and they taped a new basic track the following day. These dates were the Beatles' first full group session since early June, as Harrison had traveled to California to film his segments of the Ravi Shankar documentary Raga, and Ringo Starr, eager to escape the acrimony within the band, chose to accompany him. I think that's a time where Ringo almost left. Now, during his time away, Harrison resolved to recommit to the guitar as his main instrument, having studied sitar under Shankar's tutelage since '62. In author Jonathan Gould's description, "Everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey," thereby provides the first example of Harrison's vigorous return to form on the White Album. Now, the lead vocals and other overdubs were added to his performance on the 1st of July and the 23rd of July. Among the overdubs were hand claps, background shouting, an additional snare drum, in the segments following the song title, and a second bass part by McCartney over the build-up before the fade-out. The recording was sped up by mixing the tape running at 43 Hz instead of usual 50, a process that raised the song's key from a D to an E major. Stereo mixing was completed on the 12th of October. So just to recount, a very fast 224 on Apple, released on 22nd of November 68, again as part of the White Album, with George Martin as a producer. Now, Apple Records released The Beatles, or the White Album, on November 22nd, 68. Everybody Got Something to Hide was sequenced as the 4th track on side 3 of the double LP, behind Mother Nature's Son and Lennon's rebuke of the Maharishi, Sexy Sadie. And of course, that would be side 2 of your CD, second CD. Among contemporary reviewers, Record Beer commented on the strange vibrations provided by Lennon on the album and described the song as worthy of the Oddest Title of the Year award. The writer added, full of taking easies and woven with a strong vintage Beatles backing, it moves with lines that the higher you fly, the deeper you go. Now, reviewing for Rolling Stone, that sellout Jan Wenner lauded the album as a representation of the history and synthesis of Western music. Now, Lennon said in that last interview, the classic interview, you can find it, please do so. What did the critics say about this song? A bit simplistic, no imagery in it. Perhaps I should have said, your inside is like a whale juice dripping from the fermented foam of the teeny boppers, VD, and Times Square, as they injected my white clown face with heroin and performed in red leather knickers. Maybe they like it right. See, the rock critics were always looking for deeper meaning in the Beatles songs. And as a young person, I did, and sometimes, like Shrek said, an onion's still an onion. That's what I'm saying. Now, writing for Rolling Stone shortly after Harrison's death in 2001, David Fricke featured a track in his article, 25 Essential Harrison Performances. Calling an explosion of blistering guitars and backing vocals, Fricke concluded, the song is a Lennon salute to the joys of 1950s rock and roll animalism. Now, Time Out London in 2018 ranked the track at number 13 on the list of the best Beatles songs ever. I would give it top 40, not top 20. It's but I can tell you this, this is my favorite part of the podcast here. Now, John Lennon, double track lead vocal, rhythm guitar, hand claps. Paul McCartney, backing vocal, bass, second bass, handbell, chocoloho, and hand claps. George Harrison, backing vocal, lead guitar and hand claps, and Ringo Starr, drums and hand claps. But the best version of this was Fats Domino's version in 1969. I think that's one of the best cover by a black artist other than Aretha Franklin. It's tremendous if you can find it on YouTube. Now, other people who did covers, Larry Harlow, The Feelies, Soundgarden, Fish, Kurisato Murataka, Christine Hirsch, and Mojo released the White Album Recovered in 2008, part of a continuing series of CDs, the Beatles albums covered track by track by modern artists, and this track was covered by My Brightest Diamond. Now, in the very controversial book, The Beatles Forever, Nicholas Schaefer comments that, while it's highly unlikely to have been an inspiration on Lennon, part of the negative public reaction to Ono's arrival in the Beatles circle, including posters depicting her as a monster with a monkey face, riding upon poor John's stooped back, her talons digging into his shoulders. Now, on the Escher Domo, Lennon performed it in A major. So, why the vitriol towards Yoko Ono? Well, can I be totally honest with you? If she wouldn't have fucked Paul McCartney, she tried to get Paul McCartney first, then with John Lennon. I have no respect for Yoko Ono because you can't really say that Yoko was John's muse. John's muse was himself. If he had a muse, it was Paul McCartney. It was the longest non-sexual relationship he had in his life because Stewart had died. And most of the people was inspired him musically, he either fucked them or fucked them over. And maybe what Paul McCartney said, basically, I'm going to go do my own shit. Because Lennon was a rocker and Paul was a popster. Mods and rockers, the old saying. But every time I listen to the song, I hear the Fats. I would love to hear if John Lennon and Fats Domino ever met face to face. It's a really beautiful version if you can find it. You wouldn't think Fats Domino being a piano virtuoso, but I'd like to see if I was thinking this. The Monkees' Mickey Dolenz, he's still living. So if any fans of Mickey Dolenz that know him, please ask him to do a cover of the song. I'd like to see Mickey's take on this. because Mickey was big, with what was going on with Monterey and with the Monkees. Really, the Beatles and the Monkees were the sons of the Beatles, and he did the Beatles sometimes better than the Beatles did themselves. Like Last Train to Clarksville and Pleasant Valley Sunday and all that, even though they didn't write their own songs. So everybody's got something to hide, including me, my monkey. My third favorite theme song of my life. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in 42 years as a journalist, I told my readers what I exactly thought about him. To their face, I couldn't exist. The old saying goes, Benny Coon. If you can find the kids in the hall sketch, Benny Coon, the failed, impotent artist, please do so. That kind of sums up John Lennon singing, everybody's got something to hide, including me and my monkey. So, ladies and gentlemen, you like what we're doing with Behind the Tracks, and a lot of good response to our Beatles podcast, because I don't know any Canadian journalists other than Bob Mesereau, our great New Brunswick record historian, who's really been taking on the Beatles like this, because I can bring in personal recollections. I still see them running to the train, and Cynthia was left behind. My dad is sure that he was around Yoko, not insertion Yoko, but like Yoko was getting into his head, because he gave up being bad to women, and he was so bad to Cynthia he was guilty, and he saw her as a mother figure, but he didn't stay with her a long time. He broke up with her in the 70s, so who knows? There was rumors of an affair with Anne Murray, but I can't even find a second source on that. I have a picture of them together with Harry Nielsen, but not in their bedroom. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, Oilers' big win last night in overtime, where Florida scored late to fucking piss Meyer Marchand. By the way, you're wondering why I use profanity on the channel. There's no censor here, is what I'm feeling. I don't do it deliberately, but again, it's worse now because with the 51st state bullshit. We sold nuclear technology to the Israelis, by the way. Let that sink in, because everybody's got something to hide, including me and my monkey. It doesn't matter what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening. As we like to say in the North Shore, during the Stanley Cup playoffs, keep your stick in the ice. Have a good one. Bye.